A plan gives you goals, things to aim at. And like, imagine you went to the shooting range and you didn't have a target. Well, what the hell fun is that? What are you going to do? Shoot your rifle into the air? There's nothing about that that's useful.
Shoot your friend, shoot your wife.
You're still shooting, but it's not fun.
Right, there's no game.
That's right, and the game is to hit the damn target. Okay, so first of all, there's no game without a target. All right, so fine, you need a target. And then you might say, well, is the game worthwhile? And the answer might be, well, how challenging is the place that you put the target? If it's challenging enough, the game will be worthwhile. Well, there you go. That's the secret to life. It's like, if what you're aiming at is challenging enough, the game will be worthwhile. Well, it's not worthwhile. It's like, well, reconfigure your aims then. You're not aiming high enough. By your own judgment, say, well, this isn't meaningful. It's like, hey, man, you're not aiming high enough, because if you were, it would be meaningful.
Yeah.
It's like, look, the first thing you want to do is decide that you're responsible for taking care of yourself like you're someone hypothetically worthwhile. Okay, so that's the first thing. It's like the same, imagine you have a kid and you like the kid and you'd like things to go well for them. So you got to have that attitude towards yourself, despite all your flaws, which are manifold.
And that's hard for a lot of people to get to.
God, yes, and no wonder, because, you know, most of us are fixer-uppers and we need some work. And so it's not so easy to come out with the whole self-love, which is not something I'm not that comfortable with anyways. But the fact that you're not perfect doesn't mean that you aren't worth improving. That's the thing.
I love that.
So, okay, so then the next thing is, so get yourself in that state of mind. Just assume it. Maybe there's something in me worth redeeming. All right, next thing. Assume that if you aim at it, you might at least be able to get close to it.
Okay.
Right? Or that you'll aim at it and miss, but your aim will get better across time.
And you're taking a shot in the right direction.
Yes, that's exactly it. And you're starting to move in the right direction. And even if you haven't got your goals specified properly, as you move towards them, you'll get smarter and you'll be able to make better goals. So you're on the right track.
You're starting to calibrate.
You're starting to calibrate. Exactly what you're doing. You're starting to calibrate. That's exactly it. And next step. Imagine your life three to 5 years down the road, and you get to have what you need and want, assuming you're reasonable. Okay, so these are the things to consider. How would you like your family to be if it could be the way you wanted it to be? What are you going to do with your relationships with your siblings and your parents? What about your kids and your wife? Your intimate relationship, right? If you could have what you wanted, what it would look like. Your career or your job. What's it going to be, and how are you going to conduct yourself in it? How are you going to educate yourself? Because you're not as smart as you could be. You need to know some more things. Because unless your life's perfect, you're too ignorant. That's basically the issue. How are you going to take care of yourself mentally and physically? How are you going to withstand the temptations of drugs and alcohol? What are you going to do outside of your work that's productive, engaging, and meaningful? Okay, so that's 7 things. It's just, even hypothetically, if you could have what you wanted, what would it look like? Okay, next thing. Write for 15 minutes about what your life could be like in 3 to 5 years if you had what you want, just so you know.
If you had what you want.
Yeah, if you had what you wanted, what would it be?
Right.
Like, and don't be ridiculous about it. It has to be, hypothetically within your, well, that's it. You can have a castle in the air. Well, except they won't stay in the air. So, like, you know, let's stay with.
There's going to be laws.
Well, there's all.
Are there? You know what I'm saying? Like,
there's going to be laws.
They're going to tax you probably.
And there's going to be other people that you have to take into account. So let's assume this is like in the real world and everything, just so that we can ground
yes, 100%.
Okay, so do that. Next thing. Take stock of your idiocies and weaknesses and assume that in 3 to 5 years, they auger you into the ground and you are in the worst hell you could design for yourself. That's probable. Write out that, because that gives you something to avoid. Because when you're thinking, well, I have something difficult to do, why the hell should I bother? It's like, oh yeah, so I won't end up in that hell.
Right.
Right, because part of it is, well, I want to get to where I want to go. That's kind of nice and it's hopeful and it makes you positive. But that's not enough. You also need to be terrified out of your skull.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that properly, well, I'm sure this must have happened when you decided to stop drinking. You must have thought, this isn't good.
I'm not going to be funny anymore. I thought that. I thought there was going to be ramifications, yeah. Okay,
and so what were they? What did you foresee happening?
I was afraid of not achieving my dreams. I was afraid of, ending up a drug addict. I was afraid of dying in my sleep. Something, dying under the influence.
Okay, so it's not like that doesn't happen to comedians.
Right,
it happens a lot.
Yeah, it's one of our go-to moves.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, it's not an occupational hazard because you're up late at night and you're around bars all the time. It is. Because you're up late at night and you're partying.
Chris Farley right here.
Right. Exactly. Well, and it happened to all sorts of comedians and rock musicians. It usually happens at about 27. You know, weirdly enough. So, okay, so you were afraid you're going to die, or you're afraid you're going to become addicted. So let's say what would have life like been like you for you if you were addicted? So you don't have a career anymore.
No.
Right? So you've given all that up and failed. So that's fun. So that's going to drive you even more towards drugs.
Yeah, it would have been all my dreams. It would have been miserable.
Right.
It would have been hell.
Exactly. So why quit drinking? So I don't end up in hell. Hey, there's a reason to stop. And then if you make that hell real, it's like, here's all the details of my personal hell. Yes, let's avoid that.
Right.
So then you have something to run the hell away from.
Right. So now you have something towards and something to run away from. And I'll say this too, if there's any young men or women out there who are listening to Jordan feeling like, well, I don't know if I start doing something different, like my friends are going to act a certain.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Yeah, that's
But you're going to start creating conversations. You're going to become the intrigue because you're going to be bringing something new to the table.
You're also going to find out who your friends are.
Yeah.
Because if you're starting to put your life together and you have friends that object, those are not friends. Those are just people you know. They're not friends, because a friend is someone, this is one of the hallmarks of a friend. Here's 2 hallmarks. A friend is someone you can tell bad news to. And they won't tell you why you're an idiot, and they won't interfere with your suffering. They'll just listen, and maybe they'll suffer along with you. Okay, so you can tell bad news to them, and they won't tell you some worse thing that happened to them. They'll listen, and they'll suffer along with you. But a friend is also someone you can tell good news to. And the friend will say, wow, in this vale of tears, something good happened to you. Great, man.
Congrats.
I'm wonderful. It's rare. It's unlikely. Good for you. I hope 10 more things like that happen. And they're not envious, and they're not jealous, and they're not one-upping you. And if you're trying to get your life together, if you're trying to get your life together and your friends get in the way, that's actually real useful for you, because you've now identified who your friends aren't. And you might think, well, I can't give them up. It's like, oh, yes, you can. And not only can you should, and it would be better for them. Because if they're aiming down and they want you going down with them, there's nothing good about what's happening to them, and there's certainly nothing good about that for you.
Yeah, they're not going to, and then they're going to learn, wow, I'm going to lose friends if I continue in these directions.
Yeah, exactly.